next step before we can really mount this on a mandrel though is we've got to put a keyway in here. As you can see in the original, there's a 3/8 inch keyway that goes through here that basically keys this to the shaft, and as the flat belt is turning this, it of course turns the shaft that the cutter head is attached to. So we've got to cut that. To do that, we're going to use a broach set, and I have a nice set of hot broaches that I bought a set of these several years ago. I actually bought them off of eBay, got a good price on them, about half of what a new set cost. It was may have been used once or twice, but it was in really good shape. So anyway, I got a good deal on it. I have the 3/8 inch broach to cut with the shims and all that I need. The problem I have though is that I don't have the right bushing to fit this shaft. As you can imagine, 1 inch and 7/16 is not a standard size shaft anymore. Not to say you couldn't use that, but usually most shafting in today's world is going to be in 1/4 inch increments or maybe even 1/8 inch increments, but certainly not in 1/16 inch increments over 1 inch. So, like I said, I have a nice bushing here, 1 3/8. I have a bushing 1.5 inches, but not 1 7/16. So, a couple of options. I can either order a bushing. I go to MasterCar. I'm sure that they've got one that I can order. Of course, it's going to cost me, I don't know, 30, 40 bucks probably by the time I pay shipping. And it's going to be at least Tuesday before it can get here. So I'm in a machine shop. Before I order one, I'll just make one. So we're going to make the new bushing. This will also be good because the depth of this is a little bit deeper than what these bushings are, so I can actually make a bushing that will cut the depth through there all the way, get good pressure all the way down. So next step, make a broach bushing. I found a piece of old shafting that was out in our scrap pile. It's just a rusty old shaft that was taken off of some old machine or something at some point, I'm sure, but it was just a piece of scrap in the scrap pile. 1 5/8 inch in diameter, which will give us just enough material to work with here. It's just an old rusty, dusty shaft, so nothing fancy about it, nothing fancy about the steel. I have no idea what kind of steel it is. It really doesn't matter for this application as long as I can cut it, which I have no doubt I'll be able to do on the lathe. So we're going to go ahead and get started making this bushing. Diameter that I'm cutting right now really is not critical. It's just going to be a shoulder on the top of the bushing. We just want it to be about 150 to 200 thousandths larger than diameter than the inside diameter that will fit down into the board. So I'm pretty happy with finishing. I cleaned up pretty good. So I'm just going to fuzz off a real light cut and we'll go with that. Depth of the bore in the bushings or in the pulleys to see how deep the actual finished diameter needs to be, and the depth of that bore is just about 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is we're going to actually make this bushing just a shy some weird sounds out of this. I don't like the finish I'm getting, and I'm looking at my cutter. It looks like this piece of carbide needs to be swapped out, so we're going to swap that out real quick. Difference that makes. So there you go. That's how I turn the bushing on the lathe. We're going to tip that top off and go ahead and mill out the slot for the broach to fit into. I have the bushing turned now basically on the lathe, so it's again 4 inches from here to here, which is the same depth of my cut, which is going to be real important for me to get a good have a good back behind this all the way down the depth of cut in this particular application. The head up here is just slightly larger. I did put a little notch in there right there at the head, as you can see right here, maybe if it'll focus. I put a little notch in there, and the reason I did that was just simply because the ones that come with the kit all have that little groove right there at the top. So I basically just followed suit, did the same thing. and I guess that just relieves a little bit of stress right there in that pinch point where the two parts come together. But again, we're just making it, using the other pieces as prototypes. This basically fits right down in here, drops down in, and as you can see, I made it so it's pretty much just shy of being flush on the bottom, so it's full depth. So these bushings will, of course the train to go by right when I say that, but these bushings are custom made exactly for this application. Now we need to cut the groove for the brooch to fit into it. Cut the groove in the bushing that we just made. We're going to use the vertical milling machine. I've got a Wells Index milling machine here. Most people are probably a little more familiar with the Bridgeport styles, but this is, I guess, really the same style as a Bridgeport mill. It's just made by a different company. I actually like this mill a lot. I cut my teeth back when I was working in the machine shop back in the 1980s on a Bridgeport mill, and that's kind of what I always wanted. But I came across this Wells Index, and I have really been happy with this machine. It's just a little bit, just slightly bigger than most Bridgeports that I run across, and I don't know, to me it just seems like it's a little bit heavier built than the Bridgeports are. Not to say there's anything wrong with the Bridgeports, but I just think this is a little bit beefier of a machine, in my opinion, and I've been very happy with it. Okay, so I've got a kind of funny looking vise on here, and the backstory on this is a couple months ago I just had bought a Turner & Trekkie Model H horizontal mill to do some work with, and I was needing some vices. I needed a good milling vise to go on there. I had a vise for this mill, but I was looking for a good vise to go on that horizontal mill, and I was again looking on the internet for some deals. Came across a Craigslist ad of a guy up in North Georgia that was selling off a machine shop that was going out of business, and said he had some mill vices. So I gave him a call. I was going to be up in that area on business, and stopped off one morning at the old shop to see what he had. And my intention was I was going to buy a vise. Well, got in there, and he had 11 mill vices sitting on a pallet. Some of them in better condition than others. But anyway, we got to talking, and he really didn't want to just sell me one. He wanted to sell me the whole lot. And long story short, he made me a real good deal on the whole lot of 11 mill vices. And this vise was in that lot. This is a little bit different than most vices that I've ran across. And this will be the first time I've used this vise. So we're going to see how it works. But this is actually made for chucking up a round material. If you look, you got these little V-grooves in here. There's 3 different size V-grooves. These blocks can turn around if you're turning a large thing. But what I really like about this vise is when you are adjusting, let me grab a different wrench, hang on. So when you're adjusting this, both of the jaws move in and out together rather than just one or the other. So once you get this vise centered, if you're cutting keyways or whatever, but once you get it centered, you can actually take material out and put in a piece of stock of a different size, and it will still be on center. And plus it has some nice V-grooves in here, which really just makes chucking round material a lot easier in a vise. So like I said, I haven't actually used this before, but we're going to give it a try today. The first thing though I need to do is I need to make sure that my vise is parallel to the table. We're going to be cutting a groove in that bushing, and last thing we want to do is have it, at an angle rather than perfectly parallel with the part that we're making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an indicator in here. I've got a little stare at last-word indicator, and I'm hoping that I can just run it right across the face of one of these V-grooves here, and be able to get this dialed in so that it's parallel. And we'll show you how we do that. Okay, we've got the indicator set up now, and you can see that I'm basically just got this little ball here running right on the edge of the vise, and I'm running my thumb across here, and I can tell that there's one little ding right here in the center. Not really a ding, but it's a low spot. So as I'm running that across, I'm going to expect to see it drop off there. But really what I'm interested in is I want to make the reading on one side over here, on this side, the same as on this side. And when I do that, I will know that the vise is parallel with the table, and I can move the table back and forth to adjust that. So this little indicator has only got about a 30 thousandths of play in it, so there's not a whole lot of room in there. There's a spring in there. You can flip it depending on which side you want the tension on. But we're just going to pull this up and put the cross slide on the mill, and we'll set it to 0. And then I'm just going to crank my vise over to the other side. I saw that little dip there. And when we get over there, we're about 5 thousandths. So just right out of the block, I actually have it on here pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is, since we started on the left side, I'm going to make sure that I got my bolt tightened down real good on that left side. And I'm just going to take my little mallet, and it needs to come toward me about 5 thousandths of an inch. So I'm just going to tap it over basically until I get to 0. And now I'm going to go back the other way across and see where I am on the other side. And when I do that, I'm about 1 thousandth out, which is pretty darn good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, and actually depending on where I have my, right in there, it's pretty darn close. But I think for what I'm doing here, if I've got that within 1 thousandth of an inch, and quite honestly, I'm not super confident in that face right there across the front. There's probably some little bit of irregularities in there anyway, so I'm real happy with that. I think that's going to be plenty good enough for what we're doing. So we'll just go ahead and tighten this device down completely down, and we're done. And it's set parallel to the table. We have got the bushing now mounted in the mill. I've got a 3/8 inch end mill in here, which this is one of the other bushings out of the kit. So we're making a 3/8 inch keyway, and I measured this, and this is actually just a tad over 3/8 to give enough clearance for that. It's about 383. 3/8, of course, 375, 382, so right along in there, depending on where you measure that, getting about 383 is what I'm averaging across here. So it's about 8 thousandths over 3/8 of an inch. The depth of this, 565. Well, yesterday as I was finishing up making the bushing, the batteries on my camera wore down and went empty. So I wasn't able to finish showing you the process on there, but I think you pretty much got the gist of what we were doing. We're basically just slotting in the bushing that we made, a 3/8 inch slot for the broach to move in. Let's see, here's the broach right here that we'll be using, this 3/8 inch broach. And this basically just has teeth in here. It starts at the bottom, and as it goes down it gets deeper and deeper, and as this is pushed down through the piece in that guide bushing, it just nibbles off a little bit at a time. And you put some shims behind this, do it several times in order to get it through. So we take the bushing here, we take the slot, and you can see it just goes up and down kind of like a sawtooth. And I don't know if you can see that there or not, but as it goes from one to the other, it gets a deeper and deeper cut. So we've got the bushing now, and we've got the broach and everything ready to go. Yesterday afternoon before I left, I did go ahead and cut the keyway and one of the pulleys. I didn't have time to do both, so we're going to actually get on video the process of cutting the keyway or broaching out the keyway. To do this, you have to have something to be able to push the broach through the bushing, and basically what's usually used for that is some type of press. An arbor press works very well for this because this is a 3/8 inch broach. You really kind of need a little bit heavier press than a smaller keyway. I do have an arbor press, and my arbor press is pretty small. It won't handle the size that I'm going there. So I'm going to resort to using the hydraulic press behind me here. I would probably say that this is not the ideal tool to use, not from any other reason than just that it's slow. There are much better options out there as far as hydraulic presses go. A lot of them even have an electric hydraulic pump that pumps it through, makes it very easy, and you can do this process in literally a matter of minutes. This press is actually a very good press. It has about a 30-ton capacity, but the limiting factor on it is because we're just using a bottle jack here, a big heavy-duty bottle jack. It's just slow. It's tediously slow. Again, I don't have MBAs looking at my books telling me if I'm making money or not. This is all volunteer time, so I got plenty of time. It will work, and that's what we're going to use. So we'll go ahead and get this set up. So here's the pulley that we haven't cut it in, and to start with, we just take the bushing that we made and we drop it down in there, and it sits on that lip, and we have a place to start. The broach we'll just start in there, and just like this, and then we're going to put it on the press and push it on down. Start right there. I am going to take just a little bit of oil and put on this for no other reason, just to make sure that the broach itself is lubricated as it goes through. I don't think it really needs any cutting oil going on cast iron, but it has been my experience, just a little drop or two of oil in there does make things go a little bit easier. So I think we're ready to start pressing. Nothing exciting here, just a slow job of pressing this through. We'll have to make 3 passes with the shims behind it to get to the final depth. Alright, we got the first pass through. You can see the chips of cast iron that this broach pulled out. So with the first pass done, we've got to do 2 more passes, and what we're going to do is put one of these shims in here behind the broach, and we will repeat this process. So there we go. One more keyway cut, broached out. You see the process, fairly simple. Again, a little labor intensive and time consuming on the setup I have, but pretty painless. We're ready now to make the arbor and get ready to turn this between centers so we can get these ready to finish off.